What's up, everyone? Ben with the BTC Sessions here, and this is your daily session.
Hodl that Bitcoin.
Before we jump in, couple quick things. Of course, check out my website, btcsessions.ca. This is where you can reach out to me personally and book your own BTC session. Really simple. Just scroll down to the very bottom. There's a contact form for you there. Secondly, big shout out to sponsors of the show, Ledn.io. This is where you can use your Bitcoin for a couple of different services. Number one is collateral to obtain a Canadian or US dollar loan. So essentially, there's a short application process, takes a couple of minutes, and you can get dollars put into your bank account, usually within 24 hours. There's no credit check. And actually, if you sign up with the link that I provided down below, and you're successful in obtaining a loan, well, then you will get an additional $50 worth of Bitcoin added into your account. And the second service that they offer is, of course, Bitcoin savings account. That's where you can put your Bitcoin with them and earn monthly compounded interest. So I've used the loans myself a couple of times and they work like a charm. I have yet to do the Bitcoin savings account, but we've had people watching the show that have done it and they've had a great time using it. So be sure to check into that, read everything, and decide if one of those is for you. And with that, let's dive into the news. So this is an article here that's breaking down the Bitcoin macro chart, and macro meaning like looking at the big picture of Bitcoin and its price action since inception. And this kind of macro view tends to point to the fact that Bitcoin has never actually seen a real bear market. And what exactly does this mean? So essentially, when you take a look at Bitcoin price action, of course, we've had pullbacks and downturns and things like that. We saw like a 70, 80%, nearly 80% drop throughout 2018. However, what you really need to be looking at is the yearly lows. So what was the lowest price point during said year? And when you zoom out, this is what the yearly price chart of Bitcoin looks like. And you can see here that since the very early days, every single year, the low of the price has not been lower than the previous year. And so you can see, and when we say the low of the price, we're talking about the very bottom of these little wicks here. So this is a candlestick chart that we're looking at. Or I guess that it would be the closing. Sorry, the closing. So yeah, we're taking a look at this, and essentially it doesn't look like we've really had any major pullbacks. It's just been a straight upward trajectory, more or less, even though there has been some kind of volatility in there. But essentially what you're looking at here is if it's a green candle, then it closed at the top of the candle, okay, at the top of the thick part of the body. Now, it did fluctuate, including prices of these little wicks there, but essentially, if it's a green candle, the price started at the bottom of the thick part of the body and ended at the top of the thick part of the body. If it's a red candle, that means the price started the year at the top and ended at the bottom. So you can see that even here, when the price ended at the bottom of this candle here, the next year it ended at the top of the candle here. So yeah, very, very interesting to see. You can see the price action in percentage over time here. But essentially, the quote from the person that put together this chart said, "Yes, it's a bull market, still a bull market. It wasn't ever a bear market. If Bitcoin does not put in a lower low on the macro level, does it mean we never entered a bear market on a macro level?" I'm thinking the answer is yes. So yeah, there's pretty interesting stuff here. Now, I'll read a couple more quotes here. So people have asked if that was short term. Sorry, people have asked if that was short term sell off and the price is heading back up. Due to the amount of volume, it's more likely price has short term relief that can last hours or days before another push down to retest support. Price action isn't a straight line. So essentially, yes, we could still see downward trends this year, but we're already up just an insane amount. We're up like 120% this year already. So we still are maintaining this upward trajectory regardless of these short-term pullbacks that we're seeing. So yeah, I kind of like looking at that macro kind of zoomed out perspective because it really shows you that year over year, this is a fantastic looking chart. So it's nice to step back and put yourself in that long-term frame of mind and to have that low time preference where, yeah, it might go up and down, 50, 75% in a year. But in the long term, more and more people are kind of discovering this asset and utilizing it as a store of value. So moving on here, this is out of Vancouver. Vancouver is, not across the country, but a ways away from me, but I've been out there a number of times. And yeah, they're looking at doing a ban on Bitcoin ATMs, or at least it's been alluded to. So essentially, so there's been some information. So the mayor, Kennedy Stewart, has suggested that the city council will consider banning Bitcoin ATMs in the city. So according to a spokesman, they said information the Vancouver Police Department has collected that indicated that ATMs were being used to launder money. And this article here obviously points out, well, if they're going to be banning the ATMs, they better ban casinos, restaurants, luxury car sales, real estate, and of course banks while they're at it. It's funny because when it comes to Bitcoin and you look at the case of money laundering, realistically, even though it's grown, it's like 2% or less when it comes to those kinds of illicit activities. So it's really not a massive part of it, and there are much bigger fish to fry. So what is this money laundering? Well, the actual a lot of the stuff that's actually happening tends to be more scams, and I know this because I worked at a company that did Bitcoin and cryptocurrency ATMs. And essentially what was happening is people would get a call that would say it's the Canada Revenue Agency and you owe back taxes and you're going to jail. And they try to scare people, especially people that didn't quite understand or that got a little bit panicky, into going to one of the Bitcoin ATMs and pumping in cash and sending the Bitcoin to an address that they've designated. And of course, we all know that once you send Bitcoin to somebody, the only way to get it back is if you ask nicely, and odds are scammers are not going to comply with that. So yeah, essentially people are getting scammed out of a ton of money through those types of scams and a variety of others. The money laundering, I mean, we didn't see really any evidence of that kind of stuff happening. Most ATMs now require at least a phone number. And yes, I guess people can use burner phones, but they have limits on how many or how much money can be put through the machine based on your phone number on any given day. And those typically comply with KYC, AML rules that already exist. So I doubt there would be a ban on Bitcoin ATMs because, same thing. If you ban casinos because some people launder money through them, then you're also banning all of the people that were just using the casino as a way, as entertainment, right? Same thing with luxury car sales and everything like that. So the more realistic case here is they'll probably come out with specific regulations that just kind of clamp down on potential money laundering. And then the people that are money laundering will likely find other ways to do it, as is the case with anything. So yeah, there's one other thing that they said here, which is funny. They said that criminals could technically buy a Bitcoin ATM and then launder money and also make money on the transaction fees. But if you own your own Bitcoin ATM and you're using it to put cash in and send Bitcoin to yourself, you're just buying Bitcoin from yourself. You're not making transaction fees because the transaction fees are yours anyways. You're the one that paid. So I don't know. I don't really get their logic where they were going with that, but I guess they could say if they were laundering for other people. Maybe, I don't know. Anyways. Okay, let's move on here. Facebook is going to charge people $10 million to run nodes for global coin. Yeah, so this is essentially it flies in the face of everything that Bitcoin stands for and just kind of shows that Facebook is not a competitor to Bitcoin. What it is a competitor to is traditional government issued fiat currencies. So Facebook, the coin is going to be pegged to the dollar. So yes, it's a stable coin. But yeah, so they're going to be charging $10 million for the privilege of running one of their validator nodes. However, there's no shown incentive to run one of these nodes yet. It hasn't been talked about yet, so we don't really know why somebody would want to pay $10 million to do this. Yeah, but I really like this quote from Bitcion on Twitter here. He said, "Every government on earth now has incentive to back Bitcoin for the sole purpose of stopping Facebook by adopting, enshrining, and legitimizing Bitcoin. They can set the market against Zuckerberg and stop him from taking over their economies. This admission is a win for Bitcoin." Yeah, so I mean, do I think governments are going to back Bitcoin because of this? No, but I do think that they're not going to be super excited about the idea that Zuckerberg kind of supplant their own, native currencies, because realistically, when you're talking about fiat currencies, most people on the globe out of fiat currencies would probably prefer to hold US dollars. It's the most widely used. It's the global reserve currency. So likewise, they would likely probably want to hold, if they're holding a fiat currency or a stable coin, one that is pegged to the US dollar. And I mean, this is the most high profile far-reaching company to issue a stable coin, so I imagine it'll get some traction. So what do I think of this? Well, number one, I don't see it as any sort of a threat because it's a stable coin and it's pegged to US dollars. These guys are still going to be subject to all of the same rules and regulations that are entailed when it comes to dealing with traditional banking. So users are still going to get stuck when sending internationally, and they're still going to run into roadblocks that you would with any traditional use of a bank. Maybe with a little bit more speed. But regardless, I do not see it as any sort of a competitor to Bitcoin. And if anything, it's just going to be a massive training session for people to understand how to use cryptocurrency and maybe segue to Bitcoin when Facebook coin or global coin or whatever it ends up being called cannot do what they need it to do. So all in all, this is actually good for Bitcoin. Let's move on here. Okay, so the Coinbase CEO, Brian Armstrong, has confirmed that transaction batching will be live in a few months. Interesting to note is that he said this in January of 2018. And so he did say here that its batch transaction should be coming out in a few months. It's embarrassing how long it has taken. Turns out there's a lot of stuff in growing a company, a lot of stuff to build in growing a company. So yeah, Brian Armstrong originally said that they were working on transaction batching at the beginning of 2018. And a year and a half later, nothing has happened. I mean, similar things happened when they said they were going to add SegWit, and it just took for friggin' ever for them to do it. They finally did, but transaction batching, I actually thought they had done it just because I hadn't heard about it in so long. But yeah, it turns out no. And so why does this matter? Well, when Coinbase doesn't transaction batch, which is essentially when you're sending out Bitcoin to a lot of people at once, if you do that in one transaction and say, okay, we've got a pool of Bitcoin here and it's going to go to all of these people, one transaction on the blockchain, that's it. It'll be a large transaction, but it cuts down on the space. What they're currently doing is when they send on the actual Bitcoin blockchain, each transaction is an individually issued transaction that will show up in the ledger. And that takes up a ton of space. It bogs down Bitcoin's blockchain, and it drives up fees for anybody else that is also using the network when they do stuff like that. So it's not ideal, and they're kind of screwing everybody else that's also using Bitcoin responsibly. So yeah, I don't know. Crappy. It'll be nice when they do this, but given his track record, I would be very surprised if in a few months batching actually dropped, but hey, we'll see. Okay, this I'm very, very excited about. So a while back, I've talked about this before, but I put together a commercial for Bull Bitcoin. We filmed it a couple months ago, and it's kind of just been sitting there waiting to be released. Well, anyways, we were entering a competition at the Bitcoin 2019 conference where we're going to be dropping the full thing. But leading up to that, we're going to be dropping little teasers, like little 20, 30-second clips. And then we'll drop the full thing, I think the day before the conference, and then enter the competition. So without further ado, this is part 1 of 6 of the little teasers that we're dropping for Bull Bitcoin. If you enjoy it, I hope you do, then feel free to share it around. It's just a short little taste, and I'll include these here whenever they drop, over the next couple of weeks. So let me know what you think.
Well, back in the day, I used to run my own Ethereum node, Today, things are a bit different. I just need to run it in the cloud through a third party.
Doesn't that kind of like destroy the promise of a decentralized world computer?
Bull Bitcoin. Cut the bullshit.
And also, if you liked that, that is actually my friend. His name is Dave. His name is actually Dave, and he is on Twitter, so go check him out. His handle is @GriffinDave, and you can tell him what a good job he did looking like a Rekt ETH head. And I should mention too, if anybody's going to be at Bitcoin 2019 in San Francisco on June 25th and 26th, I will be there. I'm going to be alongside Francis Pouliot from Bull Bitcoin. And I'm super excited to go down and check it out. There's a lot of awesome speakers there. And I'm just all in all really excited to come down and meet everyone. I think there's going to be a lot of people there that I've really wanted to meet for a long time. So, if you see me, say hey, come, maybe we can grab a beer or something. And with that, I'm going to start wrapping up, guys. Again, if you're in Calgary and you know some newbies that really need like a sit-down, step-by-step tutorial getting them started with Bitcoin, even just figuring out how wallets work, how to back them up, do's and do nots, how to not lose all your money. I'm hosting an event on June 20th, so I'll link to that and you can feel free to share it. If you're new to the channel, hit subscribe, hit the like button, hit that little bell notification icon, because when this airs for the first time, I'm always in the chat chatting people up. Feel free to join the Telegram group. There's a link to that down below if you want to come shoot the shit with all of us. And if you really enjoyed what you saw, you can drop me a Bitcoin tip via the Lightning Network and my tippin.me page. And with that, I am out for the day, guys. Thank you very much, and I will see you tomorrow for your daily session.